Before she became the American Idol judge, shoe saleswoman, nun-slaying, witness-era surviving, former charts dynamo she is today, Katy Perry was a humble girl with a guitar and a dream. She was just one of the boys. In this retrospective, we celebrate 15 years of One of the Boys, Katy Perry's second studio album and her first proper era as a pop star. We'll recap Katy's tough climb towards stardom, the album promo cycle and singles, as well as public reception before I share my thoughts on this album. Most people know this, but Katy Perry was once Katy Hudson, the daughter to two pastors, a born and raised California girl who sang at church and left high school at the age of 15 to pursue a singing career. Perry's early work caught the attention of gospel rock artist Jennifer Knapp, who took on Perry as a backup vocalist and helped connect her with Red Hill Records, a Christian music label. In 2001, Katy would release a self-titled album that was a commercial failure. Only 200 copies were sold, the label itself going out of business for unrelated reason. Hudson, still hungry for success, found an ally in Alanis Morissette's former producer Glenn Ballard and moved to LA. In 2003, she was forced to change her name to Katy Perry using her mother's maiden name, partly because of the popularity of the actress Kate Hudson. In 2004, Perry signed on to Java Records, a then imprint of Island Def Jam, the first of many labels Perry was signed to before she finally settled at Capitol. Also noteworthy was Perry recording a whole album with The Matrix, a production team who crafted some of the pop hits of the Y2K era, most notably Avril's earlier hits. That album was scrapped in 2004 due to internal conflicts and label issues, but it would be released as a cash grab in 2009. When I was doing my research, I realized that Perry's early history was marked by many false starts. Katy's solo record, Meant for Island, was scrapped when the label dropped her and Java in 2005. Perry was signed to Columbia shortly after. Perry did have some small wins, like her song Simple, which she worked on with Greg Ballard, ended up on the soundtrack for Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but her then major label debut Fingerprints had been planned for a 2007 release. Fingerprints contained a few key tracks that would survive and make it onto One of the Boys. Yet again though, Katy was dropped by her management and the label towards the end of the development. While an official reason was never given, some speculate that it was due to label disagreements on her image. I'm pretty sure Fingerprints had to be a good record because some of the scrap tracks went to other artists, songs like Miley Cyrus's Breakout, Kelly Clarkson's I Do Not Hook Up, and Long Shot, as well as Selena Gomez's Rock God were all Katy's first. Also because the head of Virgin Records at the time got her over at Capitol Records in early 2007. Capitol connected her to Dr. Luke, who cooked up her debut single, I Kissed a Girl and Hot and Cold. With proper label support, the album was just about done and it was time to promo. As it is Pride Month, I do want to talk about how instrumental the LGBTQ community was for Katy's early success. Her first proper release under Capitol was You're So Gay, a satirical kiss-off anthem about dating a man so metrosexual he might as well be gay. In retrospect, the song aged poorly, with some calling it her worst song to date. However, at the time of its release, it did introduce Katy to the internet blogosphere and built interest in her music. It's always funny to me seeing younger Katy cats call foul on the song. In the late 2000s, homophobia was so casual and rampant that the song was considered witty and edgy, even though it really didn't win over any radio play. Looking back, this may have been Capitol's attempt to paint her as an American counterpart to Lily Allen. Katy Perry was trying to forge an identity then, and bore some similarities in appearance to Allen. Her lyrics, however, lacked Allen's bite. Ironically enough, Allen had beef with Katy. In 2008, Perry had apparently called herself a skinnier version of Lily Allen. Perry half apologized in an interview with US Weekly, saying that comedians are not necessarily to be taken super seriously. Ouch. Her first proper single, I Kissed a Girl, dropped in April 2008. Despite label worries that it would never get played on radio, the song ironically got its start after airplay on 107.5 The River in Nashville. It spent 7 consecutive weeks at the top of the charts and was a smash internationally. And so no one in the comments whacks me for this, its music video featured Kesha in a brief cameo, but no actual kissing. Looking back 15 years ago, the song being controversial seems silly, but damn, this song really did anger some prominent LGBT critics, and it really did roil some of the religious figures of the time. Outlets like Slant called it appropriation of gay culture for attention, while religious figures argued that Perry was promoting a life of sin, and Perry's religious parents should be ashamed of her, something that Katy Perry herself debunked. Turns out they did support her lucrative career. In spite of some of the noise, some argued that it was actually a pro-queer anthem. Perry would go on to say that she's heard many stories of people realizing their desires through the song. To many, Perry would eventually properly become a gay icon over the years, dedicating her Firework music video to the It Gets Better project in 2010. In 2017, she vaguely came out as bisexual herself, and in 2018, during an interview with Glamour, Perry did say that if she could rewrite the song, she would do it to remove bi stereotypes, citing her own growth and evolution. The album dropped on June 17, 2008. It received mixed reviews, mostly criticizing the lyric work, but praising Katy and the producers for making a hit-filled record. Sales-wise, it debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200 with 47,000 units sold. So far, it is 3 times platinum and has sold 7 million copies worldwide, likely more because that figure is from 2010. Digital downloads were so strong for Hot and Cold that it hit 88 on the charts before it was properly released as a single in September of that year, where it peaked at number 3 in November due to strong competition. It spent 18 weeks in the top 10, outlasting I Kissed a Girl. It actually outsold that song and is 8 times platinum today. The music video is iconic. Katy was meant to appear on Sesame Street to sing the song with Elmo, but that was cut due to concerns over her cleavage. Katy would jokingly wear an Elmo shirt on her SNL appearance later that year. Thinking of You, one of the 2 tracks written entirely by Perry herself, was the next single. Initially, it was meant to be the lead before I Kissed a Girl blew up, but it did get a new music video, but peaked at 29. The final single, Waking Up in Vegas, co-penned with Desmond Child, peaked at number 9 on the charts. It was the 3rd top 10 from this album alone. It also had a very charming music video directed by Joseph Kahn. To promote the record, Katy embarked on the Warped Tour in 2008. She also went on her own 89-show solo tour, Hello Katy, and also opened for No Doubt in 2009. Prior to kicking off the Teenage Dream promo era, Katy appeared on a remix of Starstruck for 303. She also featured on the underrated If We Ever Meet Again, a collaboration with Timbaland. Perry also entered a whirlwind romance with her first husband, Russell Brand, after filming a cut cameo in his film Get Him to the Greek, but that's a story for another era. Now I'm going to briefly talk about the music itself. Thematically, the record is a comedic, witty, campy affair meant to show us Katy's range as an artist. The record is definitely of its time. Records before the streaming age were pretty much just the singles and a couple of B-sides, never really a linear story. One of the Boys for sure feels like it was a version of what Fingerprints was meant to be, but with the 2 Dr. Luke produced hits tacked on. Those 2 tracks and their success would steer her towards the Teenage Dream blockbuster success that she would have. All that being said, the rest of the tracks paint an interesting version of Katy I think should come back. Katy's pop rock, punk light bops, and ballads aren't bad. If anything, they demonstrated a path for her to become a force in adult contemporary. I think a return to these sounds today, especially with pop rock having a revival, would be an effective way for Katy to come back into the mainstream. This side of her would be explored again a little bit on the later half of Prism, but it's fascinating how good Katy kind of sounds here. One of the Boys is definitely dated, but with the trend swinging back towards the 2000s, this record's kind of refreshing to listen to. The title track is a fun storytelling exercise where Katy introduces herself to us with her tomboyish self, who is now a glammed up queen. It's a throwbacky rock song with a solid hook and verses that are music video ready. The bridge is definitely the strongest part of the song, but the lyrics are very corny. It's really giving I'm not like the other girls, but her delivery does make it sound earnest. I Kissed a Girl is a classic. Those drums, the way that there's a natural thump to them, the way that the syllables really fold into each other's so well. The catchiness is off the charts. I never realized how powerful guitar is on this track. It really punctuates each of Katy's lines so well. The chorus is pop perfection, the way that it really does have a natural refrain in there, and that bridge is an actual bridge, something we don't get today. I feel like the final chorus needed some extra oomph for sure. Fun fact, Miley Cyrus once said that this song was written about her, though Katy's on record saying that the Lips line was inspired by Arbor American actress Scarlett Johansson. Waking Up in Vegas was my favorite when this album dropped and I was like 12. Again, the guitars are really perfect, the verse work here is impeccable, there's a clean storyline that you can follow, the hand claps in the pre-chorus are really catchy, the song structure here just works very well. That chorus is really timeless. My favorite part in the second verse is the detail about the class ring because it's just so descriptive. It's a smash, and that music video, I mean, this is straightforward pop at its best. Thinking of You is my favorite ballad by her. There's just so much emotion in her vocals. The lyrics aren't too corny despite her writing them all the way back in 2002. It's her oldest written released song to date. It just works. You can really feel the pain of moving on to someone who just isn't the love of your life on here. I argue that this was the prototype for the poppier, the one that got away, but it's definitely less robotic. The music video is amongst some of her best. It's just really well realized and tragic. Mannequin's a really charming deep cut. I like the sounds during the verses. It really does feel like shopping music, which fits the theme of the man being so emotionally cut off that he feels like a mannequin to Katy. The lyrics are definitely a weaker point for me. They're very on the nose, but the song does sound spectacular as her vocals are very solid. You're So Gay is nothing worth writing about. It's an outdated time capsule of bad 2000s gay stereotypes. Yeah, there's a catchy chorus and a fun production here, but it's absolutely just a poor fit for the album. Putting I Do Not Hook Up or Long Shot here definitely would have been more effective and useful for Katy. Hot and Cold is a classic. It's definitely one of my favorites off the album, from its opening drums to her actually hilarious lines like UPMS like a bitch I would know to that chorus. It's such a solid track. The refrain of You Don't Really Want to Stay but You Don't Really Want to Go is so simple, but the way that she sings it hooks me every time. The emphasis on the word you really works. It's very magnetic. And again, I want to highlight her ability to really use the bridge to rebuild up to an explosive final chorus with ad-libs galore. The emotionality of her voice and the anger is so underrated. If You Can Afford Me is a breezy, fun deep cut that I honestly feel like should have been a single or a song in a rom-com. It's pun-filled, there's a chorus that's addictive, I love the dips in her voice, the way that she sings with this instrumental. Again, there's a narrative, a progression of time in the lyrics present here, the way that she sings Nothing's Free instead of Loving Me in that second pre-chorus. You can really hear a smile in there. Now, Lost is where the album starts to fall apart for me. This one's a mellow ballad with cool production and cool vocals, but it's very superficial with its trite lyrics. The chorus redeems the track for me just a little bit because there's real sadness to her voice that makes it kinda work. Self-Inflicted sounds like a soundtrack cut for an old Lindsay Lohan teen comedy. It's serviceable pop punk about self-destructive love that evokes Low Rent Pink, and weirdly enough sounds like her future ex-husband's rock tracks from the Get 'Em to the Greek soundtrack. It's a cute Hot Topic shopping bop. I'm Still Breathing is a pass for me. It takes too long to start. It's just not a very effective song. Fingerprints ends the album, and it's definitely a stronger deep cut, not about romance, but about fighting for the chance to be a star. It's a welcome change in pace and in song topics, and I do get why it was the title track for the original record she wanted to drop many years ago. For sure, definitely a predecessor to her self-empowerment anthems about not giving up. All in all, One of the Boys is a bag of highs and lows. It's not even or paced well, and as a product of its time, it didn't care to be a cohesive album. When the album is on fire, it works. Upbeat Katy's always the most consistent Katy for sure, but I do think with some refinements to her rock stuff, it would do quite well today. I really couldn't help but think about Olivia Rodrigo's Sour when listening to this. You know, it's a very similar rock-slanted debut with some obvious hits in there and some clunky ballads. Even if it came many years later, Sour feels like an evolution of this record's sound, just more focused and personal in some regards. I do think that this album was kind of like the Sour of its time. Or vice versa, it's just such a weird parallel that I noticed. Regardless, I'd definitely give this record a 6 out of 10. I did like most of it. I feel like it was very much like a prototypical Katy record. It did do its job pretty effectively, and honestly is a pretty decent listen. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching this video. My heart goes out to everyone who followed my channel because of my recent stuff. The Chromatica video, I'm very proud of. I'm so glad that it's doing well. I did this sort of to continue a Pride Month series for my viewers. Happy Pride Month to you guys, to those of you who celebrate. Quick shout out to my members. And again, thank you so much for being a subscriber. If you are, if you aren't, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, yada yada. Comment your favorite song below, and I will see you next video.